And we're live. So we're moving on. It's a very fast day for us here. I hope you're all enjoying it. And now we have the keynote. I know you've been waiting for the keynote for quite some time now. And I am absolutely sure all of you would agree that it is completely unnecessary to introduce Mike Milinkovich, but nevertheless, Mike, our executive director at Eclipse Foundation, enabling us all to help the community and organize so community can thrive on open source. So Mike, why don't you take it over from here?
All right, Tanya, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for attending JakartaOne Livestream. It's obviously a big day to ship Jakarta EE9. My talk here is going to be pretty brief, but I just wanted to start off with a real congratulations to all of the people that participated in the release. And just wanted to, I mean, I'm sure you've heard these names before, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank folks like Kevin Sutter from IBM, Steve Millage from Pyera, Scott Marlowe from Red Hat. Those are a couple of the people who really put in a ton of effort to make this day possible. And so just wanted to call out and say thank you very much to them. Obviously, the list is far too long for me to go through everybody's name personally, but it's really worth it to remember that there's a ton of people that are behind all of this work, and it's really exciting to be able to recognize them. So just to remember, or recap, when we talk about shipping a Jakarta EE release, there's really three elements to that release. And the first one is, of course, the open specifications, and that's leveraging a specification process that we created from scratch a couple of years ago as we started this journey of moving Java EE into Jakarta EE. Then there's the open source TCK license and process. And the fact that the TCKs are now open source is a really big deal, and definitely been one of the major milestones in starting up Jakarta EE. And the fact that anybody can make bona fide claims of compatibility, I think really helps us grow the Jakarta EE ecosystem. And then last but certainly not least is the compatible implementations. And one of the things that we do with the Jakarta EE process is that before we can ship a release, there has to be at least one open source compatible implementation available. This time around, it's Eclipse Glassfish, and as it was last time. But I think it's really important that we have that step in that, making sure that before we declare a spec release final, that we have an open source implementation that the community can download and use. So those are the three elements in any Jakarta EE release. And of course, Jakarta EE9, the big news is the Big Bang. And really, it's about all about changing the namespace from JavaX to Jakarta. And why did we do that? And really, the reason why was that was the way that we finally agreed to with Oracle as part of this process, that we were able to get the ability to really drive this platform forward in the future. So moving to the Jakarta namespace was necessary to really make this a foundation for future innovation. As part of that, we've been steadily lowering the barriers to entry to get involved in Jakarta EE, and this is another step in that process. And finally, doing the Big Bang, there was a lot of conversation that went into this decision of changing the namespace, but doing a single release where the entire focus was on the namespace change was something that was very much a thoughtful decision by the community and by the group that governs Jakarta EE, because this is an enormous ecosystem. There's a lot of different pieces that have to move forward, and by providing them with a release that where the namespace is the single thing that really changed, we think, and I think we're seeing the evidence that this is going to work out. That's going to help the ecosystem move forward. So having that open and stable platform for developers for testing this migration is really the point of Jakarta EE9. And we're really looking forward to seeing this ecosystem move forward to the Jakarta namespace. One of the things that we're really excited about is that as we went through this release cycle, we saw 123 new contributors to Jakarta EE. And that's a number that we want to see continue to grow. So please, if you're attending this event and you're listening in or listening later, think about how you can contribute to future releases of Jakarta EE, because it's really your contributions that are going to make this entire initiative a success. But some of the numbers, just to show you the scale of what we're talking about here, is there's 18 member companies now involved in the Jakarta EE working group. And we're up to 65 million lines of code. Of course, that's including the content of the specifications, but then the TCK is millions of lines of code in and of itself. And then, of course, the Glassfish code that provides the compatible implementation adds to that total as well. So there's 31 open source projects and a total of 60 Git repositories involved in this effort. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts. And coordinating all of the activities and making a release a success does involve a lot of work. And again, I mentioned some names a few moments ago, and it was people like that that really made all of this possible. We're particularly happy with what we saw with Jakarta EE8 in terms of the number of compatible implementations. And so if you go back in the history of Java EE, it's certainly been a while since we've seen this many fully certified vendor products for a release of the platform. And so one of the things that we think is really helping reinvigorate this ecosystem is the ability for member companies to on a more cost-effective basis label their products as Jakarta EE compatible. So we're, of course, Eclipse Glassfish you've already talked about, but Pyera, the Red Hat products, JBoss and Wildfly, Open Liberty and WebSphere Liberty from IBM, Fujitsu, then Apisic and Primeton. These are, and there's several more coming. So this is a real sign of success and adoption for the Jakarta EE platform. So looking forward, and I know that there's been a panel and there's another panel coming up, and there's lots of other people that can talk about this at greater lengths than I. But we're really excited to look forward to what's happening next in Jakarta EE. And of course, the next thing that's happening is Jakarta EE 9.1, which is going to add Java SE 11 support and moving forward on the version of Java that's supported by Jakarta EE. So that's moving from the next long-term support release. And then following that is going to be Jakarta EE 10, which is really the first time where we are going to be really focused on new innovations. And so there's a number of the different themes, and there's again, this is an opportunity for the community to get involved because none of this is cast in stone as yet. But some of the themes that have been discussed for this release is to take better advantage of CDI and have a more common approach to how dependency injection works throughout all of the specifications, leverage some of the new innovations that are happening in Java SE, and taking advantage of some of those things to make better, more readable, more maintainable, higher performance code. Portability and vendor neutrality. I mean, I've talked about Eclipse Glassfish a few times, but in the future, right now, the Eclipse Glassfish is kind of tied to the way the TCK is implemented, and there's definitely interest in getting other implementations, open source implementations, be ready to be used as compatible implementations going forward. And then, of course, then there's the innovations in the specifications themselves. So the idea is there's at least 10 specifications that have already said that they want to participate in a future release by modifying their specs and bringing them forward. And of course, that's originally why this whole process started, and that's very exciting to see. Then there's a lot of work that we can still do to make the process itself even simpler and more streamlined. So of course, we're going to do that. And refactoring the TCKs so that individual specs can have their own standalone TCK is something that we're very much looking forward to as an opportunity for the community to contribute, because there's going to be some real heavy lifting to refactor the TCK and get us to the greater flexibility of having standalone TCKs. So that's just some of the things that are on the list for Jakarta EE 10. that we're looking forward to in the future. So with that, and I think I've said this more than once, we're really looking for the community to get engaged. So please come and participate in the Jakarta EE working group, the Jakarta EE community. You can get connected with us through Twitter using those handles or those IDs. But really participate and contribute in the specification projects, the TCK projects, and helping drive forward with these compatible implementations going forward. So with that, I thank you, and perhaps have managed to give a few minutes back to the agenda of the event. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the event goes for the rest of the day. And thank you, of course, to Tanya and Hudson for all the great work they're doing behind the scenes to make today a success. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks everyone for joining. We're going to take just about a 5-minute break here before the next session starts. Mike did more than get us caught up. He actually even put us ahead. So thank you, Mike, and enjoy a couple minutes, everyone, and we'll get started again at 12:20 for the industry keynote.